Be the Plume goon, should start down, need permission, I stay real with it. Lay one foundation, always gon' build, bro, I been biddle with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, smart contracts with a cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare, show you where the house at. It's on the block, turns out I been black rock.
What's going on, folks? Underdog Research Channel, the Plume Report. I know you haven't seen a Plume Report, but I'm about to give you one right now, folks. Before I do all that, I got something great to tell you. I have discovered something that no one else has talked about. You won't find it on social media. You won't even find Plume talking about it. They might not even know this. So make sure you're paying attention. I have a detailed conversation about a connection with Plume that no one has yet discovered, but you're going to get it first. Before I do that, let me tell you how my videos go for those who might have never watched before. I make visuals so that you can research over hype around here. That means that you should look at this, put it on a big screen, put it on a laptop, and so you can see the information, so you can check the things I'm talking about. Nothing to hide here. I like transparency. So put it on big screen, share it to a computer, go to YouTube app, and then find Underdog Research Channel. You want to watch this and follow along for yourself. Now, if you want to become a member, scan the QR code. I give exclusive content about this topic, and you can find out the Plume Report each and every week, and I'll be giving this on my private site for my members. Now, let's get into it. Now, all the disclaimers out the way. I was sitting there minding my own business. Y'all understand? I was minding my own Underdog business, trying to give you the best research possible. Yes, I was. And I was going to this week, and it will be released on the members only, give you a conversation about the 255 projects currently building or trying to build on Plume Network, so we can look at the value. I was going to go through this to talk about the 19 industries those 255 projects are in. I figure you probably want to see something other than price action if you really want to understand what could happen, what may happen, what you need to be expecting to happen in 2026 and beyond in real world assets. Don't that make sense? And as I was sitting here minding my own business, I found a connection, folks. Plume is connected to a network called the B² network. Now, if you stop right now, you might not even understand how big that is. It's most people won't even understand what this means. But not only am I going to show you the connection to this network that you're hearing here called the B² network, I'm going to show you the overlap between these two networks. I'm going to tell you my thoughts about what this means. But in order to do that, don't you think you probably need to know what the B² network is? So let me do this for you. I'm going to do something for you. I'm going to play someone else's coverage of the B² network. And then I'm going to go into my coverage of the B² network. And that's the way I can set a foundation for you so that when I talk about the connections between Plume Network and the B² network, you will be like, oh, seriously? This is happening? Let me show you a little bit about it. So I went to this particular site as I was doing research. I talked about the B² network in 2024 to my community about a whole nother project unrelated to Plume. And I gave this out in 2024. I talked about it in 2025 recently as well. But I want to show you this individual who covered it recently, October the 16th of 2025. What happened with B² network? And then I'm going to connect it to Plume. So if you leave, that's on you. So this is what they said. I'm only going to play a few seconds of it, but I want you to pay attention to what they are talking about B² network. This is what was said. Wait a minute. I just realized you might not be able to hear it. I just realized that you might not be able to hear it. Let me upload this to, we're live, folks. We're live. Let me upload this right now. And then it's going to start. Let me give you a snippet just in case you couldn't hear it, because I think you can't hear it when I share it in this way. So here it is again. Let me make sure this is it. Give me a second. Let me upload it.
network. So this is another Bitcoin layering solution. Now, I've spoken about one earlier today, actually, right? The reality is that I think Bitcoin layering solutions make total sense right now. It's one of the most secure networks in the world. Well, it's not one of, it's the most secure network in the world. Layering solutions for Bitcoin, a settlement layer, that's a brilliant idea. Let's dive into this one, because actually it's rocketed up. In just the last few weeks, it's been doing very well. Next gen layer 2 scaling solution built on top of Bitcoin, aiming to significantly enhance Bitcoin's performance and scalability without compromising its security. They integrate zero-knowledge proofs and adopt modular blockchain architecture. This is not only to alleviate Bitcoin's congestion issues, but also expand its programmability and utility within the broader crypto ecosystem. Now, they have 4 major innovations. One is the B² rollup. This is the execution layer. So this introduces a Bitcoin native layer 2 solution that leverages zero-knowledge proof verification commitments. Basically allows users and developers to execute smart contracts and batch transactions off-chain. You've got the B² hub, which is the Bitcoin data availability layer. So it acts as Bitcoin's data availability layer that ensures all transaction data and rollup proofs are permanently stored there. You've got the B² Buzz, which is a Bitcoin financial yield product. So the way this works is that it allows Bitcoin holders to try yield opportunities, whether it is staking, liquidity mining, or structured products that basically give passive income while keeping your Bitcoin. They also have Mining Squared, which is Bitcoin mining yield enhancement. So Mining Squared is B²'s network's mining pool solution that integrates traditional Bitcoin mining with DeFi-like yield opportunities. Also, auto-subscribable Bitcoin yield products tailored for miners. These components make a fully accessible and easy to start exploring kind of network. And as of right now, the total value locked just over 600 million. User returns has been over 30 million. Total revenue has been around 833 Bitcoin. Total addresses on the Bitcoin rollup is 10 million addresses. Total transactions 167 mil. Backed by good names, KuCoin Ventures, just one of them, but you've got Waterdrip Capital, Future Money Group, etc., etc. Like very good names behind this. Just to put into context as well, already on KuCoin, MEXC, BitGet, Binance Alpha. It's not on Binance proper. It's not on Coinbase yet. I would actually expect that it will end up on both those places. Price appreciation has been very, very good. Volume's generally been pretty good. It's not incredible, but very, very good. B² has a lot going for it already. I actually really think this has some quite exciting projects that they're starting to work with now as well. But really, more than anything, I just think there's too much money on the table that is not being utilized. Bitcoin is a store of value, of course it is. No one's arguing that. But Bitcoin could be used. Bitcoin's actual blockchain is the most secure blockchain in the world. It's unhackable at this point in the sense that, to do an attack would cost too much money. No one can afford to do it. And utilizing Bitcoin as a layer, as a transaction layer, as a settlement layer, it has such positive upside. You can then embed Bitcoin properly into yield products. You can embed Bitcoin properly into DeFi products. And all of a sudden, you've got effectively an idle asset that, yes, it might be going up to 150,000, maybe 200,000, maybe $250,000 this year or next year. But whilst it's sitting idle, it could be earning, could be doing something. Introducing these solutions is a vital part of growing Bitcoin to beyond what it is right now. And again, DeFi wise, they've got some interesting stuff here that can start being looked at. I would recommend people actually dive into the.
All right. Okay. Let's talk about it. Now I'll let that conversation go on a little bit of time because I know I've been in crypto for a while, blockchain technologies, and we have microwave thinking. We want somebody to get right to the meat of it and just tell us what we want to hear. And that's just not the way my platform works. There's so many people doing that. I feel that the reason someone told me this, who's a multimillionaire, a good friend of mine, and they're a multimillionaire, and they've never touched crypto other than when I introduced them to crypto. And they said something that I continue to tell people, that a confused mind doesn't buy. And what they meant by that is, when we're talking about marketing and we're talking about the way the ecosystem work, there is a human element that comes to sales. There's a human element that comes to making money. When you are the consumer of information, or you want a car or a house, if you're confused by something, if something doesn't make sense to you, you likely will walk away from it because a confused mind doesn't buy. I apply that standard to this. I'm here today to talk about this connection to likely a project that you have never heard about before. And I'm about to show you a overlap between something you know about, Plume Network, and something you don't know about. So for me, I feel that the best course of action is to first explain to you some of the fundamentals and interesting things you need to know about B2 Network, so you see the value of B2 Network in order so you won't be confused. So he was telling you a snippet. I ask you that when you want to follow my platform, I'll give you more information about the B2 Network. But today's conversation is about the overlap between the B2 Network. So I'm going to show you the value of the B2 Network, and I'm going to connect it to Plume directly, so you have no confusion, that you understand why is Underdog Researcher telling me this. Somebody today might leave here today and you might decide that B2 Network might be something in addition that you want to obtain to diversify your portfolio. And someone might get what my purpose of it today is, not to tell you what to buy, is to tell you that we got to understand where the money is going, where the money is, in order to understand the value and impact it will have on the project that you want to understand. Think about it, folks. Do you refer to JP Morgan Bank as one bank? Or do you understand that JP Morgan Bank is multiple banks? You understand that JP Morgan Bank, when you say that, bank is singular, but it represents a bigger ecosystem. Loans, credits, JP Morgan Bank, one of the biggest in the business. When you connect these things, if you only stop shorthanded and look at Plume Network as a token on Coinbase that's underneath 2 cents, you're going to miss the whole ideology behind this connection. With that being said, let's talk about it. No one knew this. No one's talked about this. No one's reported this, but I found this out. There are connections between the B2 Network and Plume Network. I'm going to bring up a conversation that I had with my community 2 years ago, and I had this year throughout the year, about B2 Network connection to an unrelated project. And then I'm going to bring you to Plume Network and let you hear from their people. And we're going to then look at Plume Networks, and we're going to look at the projects that they have on their page that are building on Plume Network. And then we're going to do a comparison and analysis, and I'm going to show you the names, and then I'll let you draw the conclusions. I'll let you speculate or see the direct connections. And what does it mean? This is the conversation I had. Bring this up here for you so you can see it for yourself. What I'm about to show you, because I forgot that before I did this, I should have uploaded this first. I'm about to show you a quick snippet from a series called the Money Trail series that I did about a totally unrelated project. Let me take this off of here so you don't have to worry about that. You're about to see it right now, and then it's just going to start. So pay attention to what I said 2 years ago about this project And here it goes right here. We have to talk about this. The B2 network, hidden crypto opportunities, folks. Huge players are involved with this network. We saw it through my research, and it merges this aspect that we've been looking at cross-chain using the BTC network. That's Bitcoin for those who don't know. Now, what we didn't understand at the time, because no one had brought you this, no one had talked about this, is this ecosystem, this network. We saw it there. But let's go a little bit deeper, folks, because we can't just skip through it. There's a lot of people involved with this network, and you may not have known. Who are some of these major players that invested into the B2 network, which is a part of the ecosystem? Recognize some of them, and I'm only going to name a few. Let's see who are some of these people. What about this? Passkey, Animoca Ventures, KuCoin Ventures, Future Money Group, and Leland Ventures, to name a few. Did you see those big names? And if you're not certain, let me make sure that you're on the same page as the Underdog researcher. Major players right here. And I only showed you 5. If you notice, there's lots more. And let me tell you this. When I looked into these major players, oh my goodness, you will understand why you cannot sleep on the Underdog Research Channel's discoveries, because there is major money being pushed through this network. And the areas that it will be in may give you an opportunity. But I'm not done, because there is some other discoveries. You thought that would have been enough. I could have stopped right there, but there's another discovery I need to tell you about. It is a part that will drive the development of this B2 network, the ecosystem. Now, in this, you see at the bottom there, there's 80 ecosystem projects in 18 categories. That means 18 different categories, industries in which these different protocols, cryptocurrencies are in. Now, that's a huge opportunity, but are we looking into them? These were unexplored. No one's talking about them, and they're going to be moving. And you need to know which ones may have potential to move, but you also need to understand the industries. You got to stay up with the trends. All right. Let's get to it. Let me pull this up for you. Let's start with this conversation. B2 Network. Here's some of 5 that I discussed in 2024 and 2025 in my Connected series and about this unrelated project. I want to make sure I talk about how it's not related to Plume. Plume had not came out yet. This is what I was talking about way before Plume was in the picture. Now, let's now go and put this on the big screen so you can see it. Passkey Capital, Animoca Brands, KuCoin, Future Money Group, Leland Ventures. That's what I talked about. Now, let's just take a quick look. Let's go down at exploration. We're going to go to Plume right now. And this is not even the projects I'm talking about yet. I'm just talking about the ecosystem so you understand some connections. Let's go now to Plume's website. Now, you should be able to see Plume's website here in just a second. Let me put this off the screen. And then let me take this here. And that make sure that you can see everything here. All right. So right now, this is Plume's website. I'm going to move it over here so I can see what I'm doing. Now, if we go right now, and I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to put something up on my screen. Let's talk about right now who backs Plume. Let's see if we can find some connections. Animoca Brands, Passkey, Leland Ventures. Let me pull this up just so that there is no mistake. So we can be on the same page when we're looking at this. We'll look at this again. You see who is there? Let's bring up the network. This was 2 years ago. Hasskey Capital, Leland Venture, KuCoin Ventures, Animoca Brands. Let me take this off so we can go do a little comparison analysis. Make sure this is off the screen for you. Let's bring it back up to where we was before.
Options.
Oh, not that one. You don't want that. We've already saw that. Here we go. So even if we stopped right there, Breven Howard, Animoca Brands, that's Animoca Ventures here at the bottom, Hasskey, we'll find that this are the same partners that's in the B2 network. Now, this right here, for most folks, they may not understand the significance. So I like for people to understand it. Typically, the problem with cryptocurrency trading is that we think this in a group separate than like stock trading or investments in general. We look for token price based on market action. The ecosystems you look at, CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, it pushes that to you. In fact, since you've started crypto, very likely 99% of the things you look at online are going to focus on price action and announcements on X about partnerships. But money doesn't move like that. See, the way I'm able to discuss and discover connections before they happen is I follow the money, the companies, and the technology. Those are three different categories. The money, the companies, and the technologies. So if you only look at price action, then you know that you are blinded with the other aspects that make you see the money rails. Why is the question as an investigator? Do I have a network here that has overlap in backers to Plume, which we saw here? Why is this possible? Who is Breven Howard, for example? Who is Hasskey, for example? What projects are they behind? Animoca Brands. Now, I know a lot of the people who are watching me right now, you already know. If you follow my platform, as soon as I said those names, you're already on it. You already know how it's connected. You're up ahead of most people. And that's why you get in early. That's why you're able to see it before it happens. When everybody else is talking about price action, you're right there. But let me tell you who Breven Howard is. Breven Howard, for example, is a multi-billionaire, and he's in hedge funds. He also is a main investor in a particular project, which I'm about to share with you right now. Let me remove some of these things from you so you don't have to see all this. This project is not something that I told you about first. It's something that Plume told you about. And let me see if you remember this, folks. So let me go. I don't want you to hear from me. I want you to hear from someone else, someone who worked for Plume. A few months ago, let me pull this up here. There was a conversation by one of the co-creators of Plume, and I'm going to play that conversation for you right now. I want you to listen very carefully.
Elaborate on Plume Network's modular blockchain architecture and how it benefits the deployment and management of RWAs.
Yeah. So, our technology and our blockchain is very modular in nature, which really means, we are, at the end of the day, we're building a permissionless chain that's dedicated for real-world assets. But at the same time, we also need a compliance architecture in place for the more enterprise and institutional folks that we're working with. And so what we're building is actually a modular tech stack where we can help provide any compliance needs that any of these enterprise folks need, whether it's KYC at the application level, AML at the node and chain level, zero knowledge technology. What we really specialize in is being mobile and nimble. So let's say we're working with a new asset issuer in a new jurisdiction and for a new asset that maybe some of our partners can't really cover. We can integrate with a partner in that area and leverage their license to bring that asset on compliantly. So by having a modular tech stack, we could bring more assets on chain, and also on the more chain level, we're working with different DA layers like, Celestia. We've been speaking with, Eigen as well, to really find a way to mimic the real world on chain. And what that means is basically creating a chain where, gas fees are pretty much close to zero. And we can really create this experience that is very similar to the real world and, bring on net new users from the Web 2 space onto Web 3.
Folks. They tell you that the beautiful thing about research is you will get the answer if you know where to look, if you listen. He tells you very clearly that they work with EigenLayer. You know who invested in EigenLayer? That's Brevin Howard. And they tell you that they are a modular. They work with everyone for compliance to on-rail. They'll work with anybody. He talked about zero knowledge proofs using for identity layer, such as KYC. The B2 network talked about ZK rollups and compliance. The thing about it is most time when we're looking at cryptocurrencies, we're so focused on Ethereum rails because Ethereum is the most popular that we forget that Bitcoin is the most secure. Think about it. As you heard earlier, when you think about RWAs, real world assets, even though Plume has made a product that you look at as crypto because you see a token on CoinMarketCap, you see a token on Coinbase, you see a token on Uniswap, and in your mind, you're like, oh, this is just like everything else. It's a real world assets. They move slower. They just made it appear to feel like crypto. You see, they're into treasuries. They're into compliance, institutional grade products. BlackRock Build has institutional grade products. Securitize has institutional grade products. Look at their website. They tell you they're institutional grade products. These partners are not partners out of nowhere. Brevin Howard is in that industry. He's in that field. These individuals are institutional hedge funds. They have built a product for them. Retail investors, we're so used to seeing people lie to us to tell us that they're building for retail investors' wealth. Plume is built for the institutions. You are just smart enough to understand that if the institutions can make money, if we can follow the backing of that, we may be able to make money if we are in the right place, the right time, and see it before it happens. Brevin Howard is one of the richest individuals in the game. And he mentioned right here, Teddy Parpina, he mentions that they talk to EigenLayer. He mentioned that they are modular in nature to work with anyone for compliance. The similarities is that the reason they have the same backers, and I haven't got to the projects yet, we got to separate it. The reason they have the same backers here, the reason that you can see, if I show you here, that Brevin Howard, you see Animoca Brands, you see Hashkey, and you will find that they have the exact same backers as we see in the B2 network. It's because it's the same money. It's the same ideology. It's the same adoption. And that means if you ignore what is happening in the institutional world, we're talking about the Fortune 500, we're talking about the stock market. If you ignore the companies and what they're doing to make sure that they can make their money rails work, then you don't know the value of Plume. Let's get back to what's at hand. So I'm going to take this off of this. I think you see this. I want you to know what I'm sharing with you so far is only a tip. Now let's get into the similarities, the overlap between B2 network. Let's talk about that value. Let me stop screen sharing here. Let me now get off of this website here, and now let me go back to the presentation I want to share with you. So now you see that 2 years ago, in fact, let me tell you exactly when, so I can note this for future reference. If we look, we will, let me put it right here. February 11th of 2024, the B2 network was first brought to you on my platform. Had nothing to do with Plume, had to do with the money rails. How did it turn out for my community? we were able to learn from this about how a project went from 6-year hiatus, and it went from less than, I think it was at the time, 1/10 of a cent, all the way to 3 cents. We was able to be ahead of a time before EigenLayer was ever released because of this research. It went from its initial at less than 10 cents or maybe about 6 cents all the way up to $5.04. We were able to get these pre-listings all because of that. I was able to tell you when these things would get listed on Coinbase way before it happened because I was following the companies, the technology, and I was also following the connection between them. So now let's go to these huge players. We talked about this. I gave you 5 because I don't want to overwhelm you. I'm going to keep going back to the premise. What is the purpose of this conversation today? The purpose is to first you understand the power of the B2 network. And then it's to show you the connections and synergies between Plume Network and projects that are building on Plume Network, that are building on B2 Network, and why they are building on both of these networks. Because the better these projects do, the trickle-down effect affects the ecosystem in Plume. So if you want to know right now, if I want to jump to it, here's some projects that you're going to want to look at. I can't tell you to add them to your portfolio. That's not my job to do. I can't tell you what to do in your investments because I'm not a financial advisor. But to not see the stated connection between these projects from what the co-creators themselves have told us throughout their research and when they give these conversations, you would be absolutely crazy not to see it. You need to pay attention to the Bitcoin network called B2 Network, Polygon, AltLayer, EigenLayer. Is this all you need to pay attention to as we go into 2026 and 2076 and beyond? No, it's not. However, my research has brought me here today. And my job today is simply to share with you what I found for myself. And what I found for myself is a synergy between the actual comparison between Plume Network and these projects individually. But this is not the core of what I want to show you. Let's now prove it. That Underdog put his money where his mouth is. Let's go through the first thing. I'm going to go here and I'm going to start showing you some graphs and information that I put together for you. I told you it's very visual, so I want you to see it. Huge players. Let's start talking about it. So I'm going to talk about AltLayer for just a second. This is not the purpose of today, but AltLayer is compared to Plume Network. Let's talk about some of the stack between the two. Both of them are Ethereum centric. Let's start with Plume Network. Purpose is built for real world assets, RWA, and tokenized securities. AltLayer provides restaked rollups using EigenLayer. Now let me look at you right in the face. Didn't Teddy Porpina, the co-creator of Plume Network, talked about how, and that clip I just showed you, how they went to industry leaders and they get advisement from who are part of their ecosystem, such as EigenLayer. And didn't I tell you that Braven Howard was one of the primary investors in the creation of EigenLayer? So now, when you talk about Plume, you got to look for projects that do liquid restaking. Now, on my private site, which I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to it right now because somebody may need more time, scan the QR codes, the one that's on the bottom that goes to my private site that's not on YouTube, the one that's at the top, it goes to my YouTube membership. There I talk about these concepts so you can better understand it because everyone learns differently and most people won't even understand the fact that how big this is. Now, Teddy told us just a second ago that they consulted with EigenLayer and Brevin Howard. Now you understand why that's important. You got a multi-billionaire in crypto and a hedge fund billionaire who's all over the world globally, who invested into a thing called EigenLayer in 2024 that does liquid restaking of Ethereum. And I'll talk about that not today in another project so you can better understand why that's important. So they got this product called EigenLayer, And then alt layer, which we can see right here, and I'm gonna pull it up to you so you can see it again. I made this graph for you. It provides restaked rollups using zero knowledge technology using eigenlayer. Plume network. Let's compare them. It is optimized for execution and the compliance of asset issuance. Alt layer. It enables shared security, fast finality, and elastic execution. Plume network. It targets institutions, regulated assets, and on-chain finance rails. And then alt layer, infrastructure for chains that need scalability, secure, and execution layers. What is the key insight? I'll put it right here for you to read it. Plume is the asset and compliance layer. Alt layer is the execution and scaling layer. These roles are complementary, not competitive. Eigenlayer, by them being partners with Plume. Braven Howard, by Teddy Porpina telling you that they are partnered with Braven Howard. You saw it on their website. You heard them say it. They told you that their ideology as a project itself is to meet compliance needs. These concepts, as I'm saying, are not in contradictory. They are complementary. Because as alt layer does the execution for compliance for this modular restaking of Ethereum, providing this as a service to other companies and institution rails, then they use eigenlayer, and eigenlayer is connected as well. And Plume can bring its real world assets aspects, and no matter what they're connected to, the more money that those alt layer and eigenlayer make, the more it's used by RWA networks with Plume networks, how it connects it, the more products that Plume network can offer that institutional rails might want. The bigger total lock value ultimately to the ecosystem, and the more valuable your project is worth. Now, if you want to look at coin market cap and talk about, today it's down 3%, and then tomorrow it's up 5%. If that is the only knowledge that you want to, then this is not going to be helpful at all. Because I'm telling you, I create information for I share information that I create and put it out there so that you can not just be stagnant in your understanding, but you can grow. I promise you, by the time you finish watching the platform, if you're a member or whatnot, you'll be able to understand when people say things such as ZK Rails, ZK Rollups, Zero Knowledge Proofs, ZK KYC, liquid restaking. Now you're not confused, and now you understand the value of what you have. This is huge, and I still hadn't got to where I want to get to. So Plume Network, where are we at with this? We are here. I'm about to show you the overlaps between Plume Network and B2 Network. I'm going to show you the value of the B2 Network. And I'm going to show you what's live on Plume and what's not live. This is basically showing you a partnership between these two networks that is not announced. Now, I want to be very clear because somebody's going to not listen to everything I'm saying because I'm giving you a long, deep dive conversation, and we're used to microwave conversations. Let me be clear. I have not seen an official announcement from Plume Network or anybody who's a representative of Plume saying that they are connected to B2 Network. So what am I saying? I am saying I am seeing a significant overlap between projects that are connected to the B2 network and what projects are connected, what industries those projects are in, and what B2 network does. And I'm familiar with that. And in my research over 2 years and studying that, I found huge winners. So you might leave here today and get Polygon because you find out that Polygon has a lot of real world asset connections that are connected ultimately to Plume Network. And in 2026, if Polygon takes off, you won't be able to say Underdog didn't tell you. Don't be closed-minded. I want you to be open-minded. So I'm about to show you this connection that shows there is a underlying connection with B2 Network. So let's get into it. When we look at Plume and B² network, they share the same wallets, folks. The bridges, the custody, and the same Oracle stack. And this signaled to me a standardization that increases portability and reduces integration friction. And that tells you where liquidity and institutional rails are being positioned next. So this information is forecasting. You ever heard people say, Underdog, what is the price prediction? And I always say, I don't know, because I don't do price prediction, because price predictions are for fun. Price predictions are fake because nobody knows any price prediction. They're just telling you what you want to hear because it's good for views that you say that you do price predictions. If I want to get more views, I'll say, you know what, guys, this project would do this, and I put a little rocket ship, and then you will go and watch it, and you'll share it because I'm telling you confirmation bias of what you want to hear. Then when it doesn't reach there, I'll make an excuse of why it didn't reach there. That is what you're used to. But what this can do, this information you get today, is telling you that I studied, and let's go up here again so we can be on the same page. I studied and reviewed 255 projects on the Plume network listed on their site. First of all, who's doing that? Who's going through these projects? So I grouped those into and identified 19 industries. So right now, if you go online, the latest conversation you'll find is about 2 days ago. I found Chris Yin and I found Teddy Porpina, the co-creators, talking on a podcast. And I'm going to show you which podcast they talked on where they discussed this. Let me pull this up so that you can see that I'm not just pulling this out the hat. They talked right here on a podcast called RWA Go Rush, powered by Polygon. Now, I'm not going to share that today. That's going to be for my members. I'm going to break this conversation down. But in that conversation, the CEO of Plume, if you will, the co-creators, they quoted that at the time that Plume Network had 200 projects building on Plume. However, if you go to the website and you check and you fact check, do your own research, I found it was 255. Now, when I say 255, that's a mixture between projects who already announced that they're about to build on Plume and projects that are live on Plume. So I have found 55 more projects that even the co-creators have talked about. So which one's right? Are the co-creators right about saying 200? Or should we find it relevant that there's 55 more projects? Why does that matter? If 255 projects are building on Plume, and those projects do well, they have to use the Plume ecosystem. The bigger the total lot value, the bigger they use the ecosystem, the more the token is used, then the utility token for Plume is utilized more. The more that is utilized more, the price goes up. So while everyone else is waiting for Bitcoin price to go up, I am waiting to find out in those 19 industries, those 255 projects, how are they doing? Because that is how a market works. The better the economy that project is in, the better the token price. So for those who are focused so much on token price and you're only looking at the Bitcoin price as your determinant whether or not the project is good, a scam, fake, I ask you, how can you evaluate a vehicle if you don't look at the motor? That is the issue. So this is my connection. 255 projects. I went to those 255 projects. I looked at each project. I grouped them up in 19 categories I found. What did I find the similarities between that? B² network and Plume. Here's what I found. I'm going to show you. Wallets were the same. Projects were the same. There was no integration friction between the two. You could pick them up and fit them together. How do I know this is true? Let's look at B² network. I showed you at the very beginning that the B² network has similar backers. The devil's in the details. Did I say similar projects yet? No. I'm only showing you the backers. I showed you 5: Hasskey, Animoca Brands, Leyland Ventures, to name a few. They also set Celestia, OKX. Now, these are backers into the network. I didn't even evaluate that. I just want to make sure that you're aware that I didn't miss it either. I saw it, but I'm talking about projects. So let's talk about it. The ecosystem of the B2 network. There's two you can find right now. I told you you're going to want to put this out here, folks. You're going to want to research this. So if you go look, the ecosystem that was stated in 2024 is this right here. Now, I'm not going to go through all these, but I looked and compared the ecosystem map that was launched in 2024, and I assume that some might stay, some might go. So let's show you this. I was right. In 2025, it was produced, an updated map. It increased. So now, I got the map for B2 Network in 2024. I got the map for B2 Network in 2025. I've now compared it to the Plume Network. I know there's 255 projects. I heard Teddy Porpina and Chris Yen say that there was 200 projects. I found 55 more. I didn't narrow it down to 19 categories, 19 industries. And now I can see visually the overlap between the two. So let's talk about it. The overlap. How many projects are on B2 Network? So let's talk about that first. So based on what I showed you right here, between the 2024 ecosystem map and the 2025 ecosystem map, there were definitively between 2024 and 2025, roughly 170 unique projects today. 170. So let's think about it. Plume Network has 255 projects that are either have been announced by being on their website that they're building on Plume, and they're either alive or not alive yet, I mean live on Plume Network. Between the B2 Network, there's 170 unique projects between the two. All right, let's keep going, because we got to talk about the B2 Network in order for you to understand the significance. And that's why I'm staying here for a minute. Now, we look at this, and what do we find here? How that number was derived. How did Underdog get to this number? Because I want you to do your research. I want you to go back to this. January 9th of 2025 was the most complete map I found. This is the map I showed you right here. So I took the January 9th, 2025 map, and February 5th, 2024 map. I took this map. This is the ecosystem map. Now you know where I got my data. So you won't think I just came up with these numbers out of nowhere. Now, taking these two maps, and I put them in their categories by the project, what it did. I found that they had infrastructure, finance, bridges, AI, wallet, custody, audits, oracles, explorers, DPN, stablecoin and payments, gamified, custody. There was only 10 to 15 added projects between 2024 and 2025. So there's 170 projects total. Now, visibly on the maps I just showed you, the 2024 map for B2, the 2025 map for B2, visually, what do you find out? There was 155 to 165 total projects on those maps shown. I deduplicated that to ultimately determine that the B2 map had a total between 165 and 175 projects. So if this was statistical, if this was an election, there was a 10 project variance between 165 to 175. So I don't have that exact number because some projects may have been on those two maps, but they're not on either of the maps now because they fell off. So it's between that range. Let's keep going because we got to get it back to Plume. So let's talk about the value. What does it matter, Underdog? You've been talking about B2 Network. I just want you to tell me the price action. I can't do that, folks, because when you see this and you understand it, you're going to go and research the B2 Network, and you're going to find why you want Plume Network to have overlap between this network. And here's what you're going to find out. The total lock value and the market cap is going to be varied based on different sources. This is what I found. The official network claim by the B2 Network, they have a total market value of $732. That's lot, $732 million. An independent tracker I found showed that the B2 network had $678 million. A site called B2 Buzz total lock value has the lowest one, which showed between $445 million. This is total lock value. Now, the market cap, that's a separate evaluation, shows between 28 million to 39 million in the current market cap. And then the FTV had 127 million, 143. Now, that's a lot of numbers, but what does that tell you? What did I say before about the B2 network? Somebody who's watching this is going to look at the Plume network and they're going to say, Underdog, I don't like Plume network. And I'm going to say, why don't you like Plume network? I already know what they're going to say. It's always the same thing. Because when I entered the market, I entered in January and I got the Plume network for 10 cents. Okay. Tell me what happened. I held on to it for a couple months. It went up to 24 cents. Okay. That means you got a 100 plus you got about 1.5% increase or 150% increase on your money. What happened then? Well, Underdog, you know what happened. It went to 24 cents and then somewhere around July, it started to go down. Okay, then what happened? And it went down and it went down and it went down. And now Underdog is sitting underneath 2 cents. It's all a scam. So then my question to them is the same thing I'll say to you transparently. So when you got in at 10 cents and you saw it went up to 24, why did you sell? Well, you know, Underdog, I wanted to see if I can make more money. So you gambled. And because the market shifted, now it's a scam. Was it a scam when it went up to 24 cents or was it a scam when it went down? Which one is it? Well, it was a slow rug. Okay. So it's a slow rug that got approved by the SEC after that? Yes. So the SEC or the United States government is slow rugging the American people. Yes. And so the SEC who sued XRP for years decided to go into business with a rug pull. Yes. And then the other companies, the 255 companies, want to be associated like BlackRock and Blackstone and even Grayscale, considering posting Plume Network because it's a rug pull. That makes sense to me. Make sense, y'all? It doesn't make sense, does it? It doesn't make sense because it's nonsensical. They are evaluating their entry into a market and they take no other factors. The total value of the ecosystem, as I'm saying to you, is not the same as the market cap. The things that are on the B2 network created its value at $732 million officially. But its market cap might be much smaller because that is a different type of valuation you're looking at for the market cap versus the total lock value. We're talking about money invested, almost $1 billion. So if you think about this and we see the overlap, Plume Network is no different. Plume Network is not crypto. That's the first thing. Surprise, surprise. It feels like crypto, but we're dealing with treasury stock and illiquid assets. We're talking about credits. Hamilton Lane has a thing called Scope. This is a product. This product can be connected to Plume. Securitize. They have a connection with Plume. BlackRock, Build, has a connection to Plume. So you got various products that may feel like the volatility that you're used to because that's what you're thinking. But in reality, it is moving with the market in which it's in. And the market ecosystem is down, therefore it is down. And then the double whammy, you have to deal with the crypto market being down. So you got the Bitcoin market that is down. It went from 124,000 down to sub 85,000. That took money out the market. Then you got the regular stock market that has to deal with these assets, credits, and treasuries. When that goes down, for example, let's take treasury, they call them T-bills. Take treasury bills. You could invest in a treasury bill, and let's say you invest your $1, they promise you 5%. Now, for most crypto people who've only dealt with crypto, they don't think that's a lot of money. 5% is huge for most companies because it's a big increase. It's like the only thing can go wrong is the government fails and then you don't get paid back. So they loan out their money and they get back a 5% return. They have to get their money locked for a certain period of time. What you got to understand is the real world assets we talk about, it's not crypto. We keep saying it's crypto because we got Plume token, Plume network, a utility token, but their products are based on these other assets, credits and T-bills. Now, when the economy went down and you got the return going from 5% to 4% to 3%, it didn't make financial sense to keep investing in that. So those Nest, Plume has a product called Nest with Elixir. Those Nest vaults don't get as much yield return. You can't loop as well. So people take their money in and out. Let's get it back on topic. So why does it matter with the B2 network? Why does it matter that Underdog found this connection and the total lock value of the B2 network is almost $1 billion? And the token itself went from like 50 something cents in the last week at the time you're watching this has went up 50%. Because it tells you about the players that are a part of its ecosystem that is creating a need. Institutions are going to the B2 network because they realize that Bitcoin is a store of value, an RWA, folks. And that store of value is not typically sold. Think about it. You don't sell your Bitcoin. The days are gone where you take 9 Bitcoin and pay for pizzas like they happened back in the day. The days now, you buy Bitcoin for a store of value. Look at Michael Saylor. Look at MicroStrategies. Look at Tesla. Look at these big companies. They are buying and acquiring ETFs of Bitcoin, and they have it as store of value. The B2 network allows you to have a product based on the Bitcoin network, which is not talked about a lot, but it's the most secure because people don't sell their Bitcoin. While it's sitting idly by in your wallet, you can use these products. Companies can too. So it is important that we see this. Now, let's keep going with this. So we got this conversation and we're seeing that the B2 network, and I just want to make sure for those who are rocking with me, who's still here, listen, I understand that when you see these thumbnails, I have to fit in there what will bring people here and how does that matter? I'm trying to make sure I give you something of value. I could have just simply said, hey guys, guess what? Binance gave an announcement again that Plume, just want to remind you that Plume is on their network and Binance might be coming into a lot of money. That gets clicks, but that doesn't make money. Those who like to make money have to do the work. And the part of doing the work, I'm doing for you. I'm taking off the heavy lifting and showing you. And this is going to come to fruition. So mark my words now. So when it comes to fruition, I will remind you that I told you about this information. But it's better that you see it and understand the connection between the B2 network, the foundation, because if you see it, you'll better understand it. So let's keep going. The B2 network, its estimated total value has continued to increase. I got this map I made for you. From July the 30th of 2024, it was 172 million. November 19th of 2024, it went to 250 million total value locked. May 6th, 2025, it went to 678 million total value locked. June 2nd, 2025, it went to 678 million total value locked. June 2nd, 2025, it increased even then. Official claim, 732 million. And in December 19th of 2025, it currently is at 440 million total value locked. Now, the sources from this is Binance, Headline News, Prosper, Binance Square News, BitGet Report, DeFi Llama. Now, Plume ecosystem, let's now see the connection. So, why it matters that Plume is connected to the B2 network. I got it up here for you to see it. You can connect Plume's overlap between the 170 projects we saw on the B2 network. B2 total projects, 170. Plume had 18 projects overlap. That penetration amount is 10.5%. That is a high for two independent ecosystems. So I want to make sure I understand. There's the first thing. Plume Network has 255 projects who's either announced they're building on Plume or they're currently live on Plume Network. Don't think about the token Plume. Think about the ecosystem. Think about this part right here. Their connections. Of that, the overlap penetration between the 170 that are on the B2 network between 2024 and 2025 is 10.5%. 1/10 of all the projects are overlapped on these two independent projects. This reinforces what I'm saying right now, what I've been telling you the whole time. They have shared rails. They have shared infrastructure, and their shared rails is institutional toolings, early convergence signal. This is the signal, folks. This signals you that not retail investors, but the businesses, the ones you want to dump money into your project, are building and connecting secretly. Plume is onboarding a B2 rails that are connected to an independent ecosystem that uses Bitcoin instead of Ethereum. Why only get Ethereum projects when you're getting projects that build off of Bitcoin, which places like MicroStrategy, Tesla, and other places are hoarding? Brazil, worldwide, build on projects that are building products for Bitcoin. It doesn't matter what you personally feel about Bitcoin. Right now, the 50-50 attack is almost impossible. It's one of the most secure networks. Before, when people didn't have as much Bitcoin, when Bitcoin price was much lower, 50 cents, maybe even go to 10,000 a Bitcoin, the 50-50 attack was always a possibility. If someone had enough money and they could get 51% of all Bitcoin, they could attack the network and they could change transactions. That's just the way it is. Ethereum came out as an answer later on. Sidechains came out as an answer later on. That is the issue. But now Bitcoin is so expensive, it would be near to impossible for one person to acquire enough Bitcoin to do the 50-50 attack. Therefore, it's one of the most secure networks on the blockchain. Now, this is the connection, 10.5% right here. I put it together so you can see it. Overlap between these two, 18 projects. So now we keep going. Let's talk about this part right here. Here's the B2 network, Bitcoin and Plume. Now, let's talk about this overlap. Here's some of the overlaps. Total overlaps found I looked into was 18 projects. Marked as live on Plume currently is 3. What are the 3? Orbiter Finance, Lorenzo Protocol, Avalon Labs. Now, marked live on Plume list. Not marked live, 15. So Plume has 255 projects. Why are they telling us that on their website? Some projects are still building. So you don't even have an evaluation of how much they're worth yet. They're still building onto Plume. They might be deployed elsewhere, but onto Plume, they're not live yet. So that means if you haven't researched those 15 projects, how do you know what the total value potential for Plume could be? If you're using Plume's network, that means you have to be a part of its ecosystem. If you have an ecosystem where you have tokens independently growing in total lock value, total market cap, and they also have to utilize the ecosystem of Plume, then they have to use that utility token more. The more they use that utility token, the more value locked, the more Plume is valued at. But it's not about the value of the token of Plume. It's about who's going to use it. Of those 270, as I was, of those 170 B2 networks and the 255 at Plume, 18 of them are coming from institutional rails. Do you think that's a coincidence? 10.5%, 1/10 of all of Plume's projects are connected to another network who's already established with almost $1 billion in revenue. Just one. What about the other 18? The B2 network. Now, here's how I get my numbers. Again, what categories are they in? January 9th, 2025. I'll go up to the top to show you again. Here's the 2025 ecosystem. I want to make sure you're very clear. I'm connecting to this ecosystem with Plume. I'm connecting to the Plume network. What did we find out? Well, this is what we found out. Let's go right here. The categories. So now we're not talking about projects. We're talking about the industries. In those 18 I was telling you about, 8 to 15 projects. Here's where they're at. AI, bridges, decentralized finance, infrastructure, wallets, custody, marketplaces, GameFi, NFT and metaverse, stablecoin and payment, DePIN and Explorer. That's the categories. So you got to start paying attention to those categories because there's beautiful connections here. So is Plume Network the only project that's going to go up in 2026? No, folks. I am going to give you, as I've told you earlier, some ones that you need to pay attention to. And let me tell you the ones right off the bat that I've told you, and I want to remind you that I've told you about these that you need to look at. By the time I finish this conversation, I hope you go look back. If you don't look at Polygon, if you don't look at AltLayer, the B2 network, EigenLayer, those are 4. So you need to understand that Plume has a connection, both direct and one removed. I mean, it could be between 1 to 2 removed, depending on what it is. But with these, they're direct. That's direct connection. So these may do really, really well in this industry of RWAs. Don't be the person who focuses all on Plume Network without seeing that it has partners in their ecosystem who doing their own thing. And they may help each other, complement each other, like we saw with EigenLayer and AltLayer. They're in the same ecosystem. Now, I'm going to finish this up. Let me go to this. What does this mean to me? This is my evaluation, folks. When I look at this evaluation between Plume and B2 overlap, this signals to me. Here's my signal. The same infrastructure products show up across multiple ecosystems. This is rarely random. It typically signals one or more of the following things. I put it here so you can see it. My thoughts. Standardization is happening. The overlaps like Chainlink, Redstone, Super Oracles, Fireblocks. You heard that before, folks? Fireblocks. They just had a collaboration with Plume. I'll talk about that soon too. Indicate these are becoming default rails. And Plume and B2 rely on the same core providers. The market is converging around shared plumbing. Strategic implication for this, Plume's ecosystem can scale faster because it is building on components already adopted elsewhere. When you go and you look at Coinbase and you look at the tokens that you may have there, if you look at Uniswap and you look at the tokens you may have there, if you go to your Heart wallet and you look at the tokens you might have there, do not make the mistake of looking and saying to yourself, I think it's only worth a couple of cents because that's what the coin market cap told me. That's what CoinGecko told me. Here's the only price prediction I'm going to give you. And I shouldn't even say it's a price prediction. Here's the only prediction I will give you. When Plume does take off, and it will, it's going to go from 0 to 100, and you won't be able to catch up. You're going to find yourself in a position where it's sitting one day at 1.5 cents, and the next thing you know, it's 2 digits, 3 digits. And then you're going to say to yourself, why did I not either hold on to it, buy more of it, try to acquire 1 million of it, try to acquire 100,000 of it at a lower price? Because I thought that we're supposed to buy low and sell high because of psychology, because you didn't know the value, because confused minds don't buy. And because you didn't understand the connections, because you didn't know the value of what you had, because of the fact that you listened to some random guy or girl on CoinMarketCap who left a comment, who didn't do one iota of research, you allowed them to influence your psychological understanding of what you already had in your hand. Somebody who entered at 10 cents in January of 2025 and now has a project that for them has lost more than 8 cents, 7.5 cents, has a different psychology than a person who entered the market at 1.5 cents, 1.7 cents, and it goes up to 24 cents. It's basic math. They're evaluating it based on those aspects, the potential that they saw or the losses that they felt. But you don't have a loss until you sell it. But if they never evaluated And I want you to really look at that. When you see comments on my platform, I get a lot of comments, good and bad. I see comments on CoinMarketCap. The first thing you got to ask yourself is this person commenting based on some type of research, or are they emotionally commenting based on their entry? Because I can tell you this, in my years of doing this, and my over 2 decades of being in cyber investigations and also fraud investigations and forensics, the human psychology will mess you up every time. It's the same thing. So what I am seeing here with this overlap between Plume and B², I got 4 more slides to show you, and then I have completed my job, is a standardization that Plume is onboarding companies who are connected to institutional rails like Brevin Howard, Eigenlayer, Altlayer for institutional investment. So if they are already been adopted by them coming onto the network, it only brings up the value. Let's go up to number 2. The ecosystem portability increases. I'm also seeing this, folks. Shared components in that 170 projects overlap between Plume's 255 and the 18 projects. I found the same wallets are being used, the same bridges, the same oracles. That's huge. And artificial intelligence, I make it easier for you. This makes it easier for users to move across networks, developers to deploy across chain, liquidity routes, overlaps like Hyperlane, Orbiter, Polyhydra, Lorenzo matter because the interoperability is distribution layer. The interop primitives bring in flows without requiring the user to start over. This is strategic, folks, not accident. Plume can capture users and liquidity from adjacent ecosystems if incentives and product markets fit are strong. Now, who do you believe? I showed you earlier, and I'm not going to play the person, but I showed you earlier this gentleman right here. Let me put him up. I showed you Mr. Porpina. I know I said it wrong, but Teddy, the co-creator, who told you, he said, we fit modular things for all these companies. We are there for compliance. We talked to Eigenlayer. We talked to Brevin Howard. We are there for institutions. And the data confirms, corroborates that he's telling the truth. I don't need him to tell me. I need to see the data. The data confirms that he is telling the truth. So now that I know the data confirms he's telling the truth, and I know what institutions are looking at this, all I got to do now, what I'm sharing with you, is find what institutions are integrating these projects, such as I just showed you here. The projects like Fireblocks, projects like that, like Polyhydra, Orbiter, Lorenzo, Eigenlayer, Altlayer, because it's strategic. Plume is saying to these institutions, listen, you don't need to start over. We have a solution for you. We have a solution for you no matter what you're using. It's interoperability is we already have that in our ecosystem. That's why I told you way before Securitize created a partnership with Plume on my series called the Connected Series, 4 months way before that happened. I told my community, listen, they already have a BlackRock build connection. I told them how. They already got the Hampton name connection. Securitize is next because there was an overlap between Securitize. It's not coincidence. It's by design. Now, the last 3 things I'm going to share with you is 4. Is institutional readiness is being telegraphed. Now, when you see Fireblocks, that's something I'll talk about. It's a new partnership. They have custody of Plume, and I'll talk about that. It's not custody, but it's a significance, a partnership. Those are not retail first signals. It's not for retail people. This is for institutions. This is operations, custody, and treasury grade signals. Even in the sector is early, overlapping institutional grade providers suggest this for Plume Network. The ecosystem expects larger allocators of money. The stack is being built with compliance and risk tooling in mind. Larger flows of money are about to be planned, not just hoped for. Plume's RWA narrative is stronger when the plumbing matches institutional expectations. What does that mean, folks? This move with Fireblocks, which is going to be coming up members, folks, I know you saw my thing. Press join right now. Go to my QR code, become a member, because you're going to need to understand it more than somebody saying there's a partnership. What does it matter if you don't understand the partnership? Confused minds don't buy. Their integration and custody transfer to Fireblocks is not a coincidence. Fireblocks work with Coinbase. Fireblocks work with big institutional rails for compliance at a higher level. Plume has 18 projects overlap with the B2 network. Plume is modular, zero knowledge proof technologies integrated for scalability, security, and privacy. Plume is expecting a large allocation of money. And once that large allocation of money happens in the near future, then you will find that you will not be able to catch up with the price of Plume, period. And you'll sit there and you'll say to yourself, I wish I had. We don't wish. We don't chase green candles around here. Underdog loves him some red candles. My goal personally, and I'll tell you my goal, just in short, is to acquire a certain amount of Plume network. I think everyone should try to consider this 100,000 or $1 million. Now, currently right now, Plume is about underneath 2 cents, around 1.7 cents. It'll cost you about $17,000. Now, if I was, and I can't tell you what to do, but some people may consider getting a loan for $17,000 and $500 so you can buy $1 million of Plume, with understanding you might have to pay back $300, $400 a month. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. That is not advice. I'm telling you that how some people may consider that. Now, here's the thought process. If you have 1 million tokens and it goes back to its average, which I reported on of 11 cents, currently at 2 cents, that's a 5X. So if it costs you, and I'm just making a rough draft, if it costs you $20,000 to get 1 million of Plume, and at 5X, you got $100,000. But what if it doesn't just go back up to 11 cents? What if it goes back to its all-time high? Now you're sitting at $200,000 for a $17,000 investment. What if it don't do the all-time high? What if it goes to $1? Now you're sitting at over $1 million in your bank account for a $17,000 investment. Now, I can't tell you what to do, and I won't tell you what to do. But all I'm saying is, depends on what you understand. If you understand the value of the project you have, if you want to take that risk, if it could go the other way, it could go down below. It will go down below 1 penny when that token lock happens in January. But again, why are this institutional readiness is happening? Let's finish this out, folks, because I got to get to you. When we look at this, it's strategic. Now, for liquidity pathways, this is what's being built here. This is a pre-built. This is secret and quiet. You're not supposed to know this, folks. These overlaps are pure access and routing. Projects like Orbiter, Fast Bridging, User Flow, or Lorenzo, BTC Liquidity Routing, Avalon, BTC Ecosystem Lending Exposure. If Plume's real-world finance thesis includes stable yields, which they do with the Nest, credit rails, and tokenized assets, then this means they're being built, pre-built for liquidity, must arrive reliably. Users must have simple rails to move in and out of products, which is true, and credit must have distribution. What's the strategic plan of Plume? They are overlapping early indicators of where liquidity could route next. They are telling us, folks, what's next. Study the ecosystem. Truly study the ecosystem. You get a glimpse of the future. That's why it continues to be accurate. What is happening next? That's what my members get. Hopefully you join and become members so you'll see what's happening next. Now, last but not least, and then I'm going to go to you because that'll be all. I've given you over an abundance of information, but you can go back and you can look at this, and I'm going to bring it out to you in segments later on as well. But this is the last, but I want you to understand. This overlap between B2 Network and Plume reveals to me the meta stack who really controls flow. Now, what I mean by that is behind the scenes, the ecosystems that I showed you, and I see the 18 that I talked about at the surface level look like apps, but the metastack controls data, oracles, access, wallets, and account abstraction, movement, bridges, custody, institutional providers, liquidity design, lending, and credit primitives. Now, I'm not done with that But I just want to say that that's the metastacks. See, if you barrel this down, if you narrow and focus this down from the 255, where do we start? 255 project with Plume. How did I filter it? I compared it between 2024 and 2025 projects with B2 Network. 170 projects. Filtered it down. 18 projects. Look at that. Object elimination. What was the overlap? Of those 18, I found generally what I found, wallets, ecosystems. But if I was to make those into 5 main categories, what do those 18 projects represent? The metastack. This is what it controls. Data through oracles, access through wallets and account abstraction, movement through bridges, custody through institutional investors, and liquidity design. Now, the meta component control, who has access to this, what shared meta components are signals. So when you look at this, Plume and the B2 network share some of the same component. It implies this to me. Liquidity, it implies more capturing of the market. The best assets, the best yield, the users of the top are shared rails. What I'm seeing here, folks, is differentiation that moves up the stack and meta rails converge. What I'm saying in English is that ultimately, Plume is controlling its narrative by integrating onto their ecosystem strategically and quietly those 5 areas. Oracles. Of those 18 projects, most of those are oracles. Access through wallets, wet wallets, and the money rails are institutional rails. And they're building this pre-build out for a big, large, incoming money. Something's about to happen in 2026, folks. Last but not least, what are the projects? So you're going to want to take a screenshot. You want to go check behind me. You want to go look at this for yourself. Of the 255 projects, let me show you some of the overlapping networks between Plume and B2 Network. Here it goes. Wallets, Safe, Kobo, OKS wallet. Bridges, Orbiter Finance, Lorenzo, Polyhydra, Network, Hyperlane. Custody, Fireblocks, Kobo. Oracles, Chainlink, Redstone Oracles. Other oracles, Chainlink again, Redstone Oracles. And lending, Avalon, Anzen. Now, you cannot ignore those. It's going to increase. It's a living, breathing ecosystem. Today is good. Tomorrow might not be good. That's why I'm encouraging everybody to go right here to my platform to become a member, because my members are going to have the Plume Report on a weekly basis. Not only this aspect, the ecosystem aspect that I'm studying, doing research on, and providing you the most updated information that even the company's not talking about, seeing the connections, but I'm also going to do the real world assets at RWA.xyz and give you a report on my other platform about that. Together, you can have a better assessment whether or not you want to stay or leave or look elsewhere than for somebody that you don't know to go online and say, it's bad. Why is it bad? Because the price is down. Scam. If that's all you want, I can give you, look, folks, if you want me to, I'll make a dedicated video every day. I can dedicate to looking at CoinMarketCap and telling you that the market's up or down. You can give a monkey and a ball that aspect and they'll be able to complete it. That is not hard. What is difficult is what I'm sharing with you. Looking into these projects individually and giving you an assessment based on what I see. Is it going to come to fruition? No one knows. But that's why I call it data, and that's why we use it and we share it. Folks, that's everything. That was a long conversation. I hope that you enjoyed that. Now I'm about to turn to you, and I'm going to put this up and see what questions you have today. If you stayed with me this long, thank you for watching. I hope that was worth it. It takes me a lot of time to do this, going through this, and I try to give you research over the hype. No frills, no thrills, giving you data you need. Who else told you about this, folks? Nobody, right? So let's go to you, and let's see who's here with us. And if you have any questions, I'll see if I can answer them. And here we go. Let me put this here. We got New Jersey in the house, one of the Underdog members. Thank you for being here today. I see you. You're always showing up, always represent New Jersey, the dirty New Jersey. Telling you're here. We got Jack Thompson, 8940. Plume, sir. Underdog, happy holidays. Shalom. Happy holidays to you too, to you and your family. I appreciate you being here, Jack. We have Jack Thompson. Is your opinion that Plume is better value than Ondo just by price alone? I don't know. I've done more research on Plume than I've done on Ondo. I don't know all who Ondo's with. My understanding right now, if I go to, let me do something. Let's do this. We're going to go to RWA.xyz. We're about to find out. Let me move this. So I'm going to go to RWA.xyz and I'm going to take a look at it right now. So we don't have to guess. Let's see how they're doing. Here we go. Let me move this here so I can see it. Let me take this off. All right. So what I'm going to do now that we're here, I'm going to go down and let's look up Plume and Ondo. I think it's going to want me to sign in, and I don't want to sign in. Let's see. Okay, perfect. All right. So let's first start with Ondo. You got to see if you're not looking at these things, it's going to make a difference. So let me look. All right. So I got to evaluate real quick. Currently, they have 17,932 holders. Their RWA count is 2. Their distributed asset value is 1.53 billion. They don't. Let's see how many people holding it though. Who's using it? So Ondo currently has, and I think who holds it and who's actually using it is very important. So if I look at this right now, although it has a huge total value, there's only, yep. So right here, if you see this, it's really small. Let me make it bigger here. I'm gonna try to make it bigger. Okay. Let me take you off here, Jack. If you look at it, they only have asset holders as of 11/30/2025. Ondo US dollar yield. This is people who hold the RWA of Ondo US dollar 16,194. Ondo short-term US government bond fund 77. So let's take this off. So if we're looking at money value for Ondo, I'm looking through here. Transfer. Yeah. So right now, so Ondo, you can see right here clearly, it only has 2 different RWAs. Short term, right here, and this one here. Oh, you can't even see this. I'm sitting here. Okay, there you go. And looking at this, the total value in Ondo US dollar yield, I see right now 690 million. And then I see Ondo short-term US government bonds, 773 million. And of that, there's only 16,000 people, roughly, holding the number one, the US dollar yield. And then only 77 people. So I look at value like that, and I don't think that is a lot of skin in the game not showing a lot of people holding it. Excuse me. Now, if I look lower, let's take a look with Plume. So it's like night and day. So Plume went from Ondo only having 16,000 holders. Plume has 282,363 holders. That means that being used. And instead of only having 2 products, look at this. Look all that. These are different. Now they got Wisdom Tree. Oh, that wasn't here last time. So we'll talk about that coming up. But even that, these are all, yeah. So it depends on what you look at value. Because although Ondo has more money, we can see that because right here, represented asset value, distributed asset value, we got 120 million here. Ondo had 4 times as much, maybe even 5 times as much. It was at 700 and 600 million dollars. It only had 16,000 people. That's not that a lot of people using it. That means that's big institutional investors who invest in Ondo. You want the real world assets, though, is something that is more significant. Let me look at Polygon. Let me look at Polygon if they have that here. I don't think I need to put a specific one. Here we go. Polygon. See? Now let's check this out. You didn't ask this question, Jack, but let's check this out. Polygon. I'll show that with you today. Look at theirs. Let's look at theirs. They are pretty daggone big. Polygon has 5,407 holders. Wow. They have 358 million in distributed asset value, and represented, they have almost as much as Ondo. Now, the represented value is where it says here, RWA tokens using the blockchain as a record-keeping layer, enhances transparency, reconciliation, operational efficiency without enabling on-chain investor transfer or distribution. Distributed layer, RWA tokens using the blockchain as the distribution layer. So they are dealing with a lot more. And here's, look at this, 3 pages. So as I said in my video that I've given you in this live, I said pay attention to Polygon, and it's beta too. That means that coming up, Polygon is going to be a big player. They're already killing it, 105% in 30 days. Look at that. See, that's what I'm saying. That's why you got to check out the Plume report. So you asked about Ondo, and this, it seems like Plume is doing a lot better because they have 200. This is 504,000 people, holders. And then if we go back, Plume, excuse me, that's Ondo. Now I want me to sign up. I'm gonna get out of this. Ondo had 16,000. So let me get out of this so I won't let that disturb us. So yeah, that is so much better. All right, let's keep going. We have, okay, he said, you heard me, thank you. What is he talking about? So the video I showed you earlier, the guy was talking about the B2 network. All right, Jack Thompson, I was good to go. All right. He was talking about, okay, that's me telling about B2 network. Good evening, guys. Good to see you here. Thank you for being here today, Randy. Lastly, Plume as new as it is, we are ranked 22 in the blockchain. L1 impressive, very impressive. I agree with you. All right, folks. Is that it? I think that's it. I think that's it. So let me take this off. All right. So we have just went over a lot of information. So make sure that you go back and you watch this and see the connections. Now, in ending, I have a network for members only. I'll be covering Plume weekly, sometimes multiple times for my members. Scan the QR code if you want to learn more about these concepts. My private site on the bottom, and also my site on YouTube. You don't have to. I got a 2-for-1 special. Basically, if you get the membership at the analyst level, and then you let me know by emailing me, and you also become a member of my private site, I do a coupon code that will discount 100% of the fees for that membership at the analyst level. So you're basically just paying the difference between the 2 sites, so you can get all the information, all the training, everything you want, all in one place for a low amount of money. So I think it's like 66 cents a day if you do the membership. So it's very inexpensive. And that was it, folks. If there's nothing else, I think I've given you everything I said I was going to give you. Now, again, this conversation isn't exciting for most people, but this conversation is necessary. Look for this to be broken down so that you can get this in segments, and I'll be sharing this with you as we move forward. I hope you enjoy this information. And until next time, this has been the Underdog Research Channel. Take care.
Aye. Be the Plume going to start down, need permission, now I stay real with it. Lay one foundation, know it's gon' build, bro, I been biddle with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, smart contracts for the cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare, show you where the house at. Spun a block, turns out I been Black Rock. Protocol, treasuries, bonds on me, got them padlocked. Been the best out, they can imitate. Get the best out, then you integrate. Ask Kondo, who Rambo, drew first blood, boy, I been a great. Everybody think they star boy, I'm in orbit. Stella still, hella Stella though. I like Swift better for the corporates. I'm the enterprise, I put Nas, Hamilton on chain. Zero knowledge, always never improvise. The White House, know my name.